when Muhoozi the command of our defense forces, made a thinly veiled threat against the US's ambassador to Uganda, Mr. William Pope, I was one of the first few people to come out and say this wasn't going to happen. And it's not because I'm an expert in international relations and diplomacy, but because I knew this is not how things work. And went on my Twitter and posted about this. I'm saying, this is not going to happen. And the tweet garnered over 100,000 views and over 3,000 people liking it and sharing it, hundreds of people sharing it. And it attracted some trolls. And of course, I got some insults from surrogates and lackeys of Muhoozi. But the USA didn't even care. I mean, it wasn't a headline, or sort of a front page story in Washington, D.C., not even anywhere, no one. They thought lightly of what Muhoozi said. They're like, okay. They ignored him, and it might have hurt him, because he believes that probably is strong or that's not the case, so they didn't care. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining why, why they didn't even care. Actually, the U.S. Embassy in Uganda even went, out of its way and responded to some trolls on social media saying, nah, you're lying. Imagine that. So this is what I'm going to be giving a comment about tonight. Are you ready?
You're watching Mordecai Marissa Political Commentary. Please consider subscribing to help grow Uganda's Voices of Struggle ecosystem. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mordecai Marissa. I want to start with saying thank you so much for all of you folks who are following me on my social media platforms and the rest of you folks who are subscribing to my YouTube channel. I do truly appreciate. We've hit 10,000 mark and we're headed now to 20,000. So I would appreciate if you do subscribe and share this content if you find it really meaningful. Now, yesterday when I made my first video using my machine right here, I received appreciations from different folks and compliments, my brother Selector Williams and brother Shaba and the rest of you folks who, brother Eli Emma in Canada, and, they were like, oh, you did an amazing job. And I was complaining about my light. So if my lighting is not the best, again, bear with me. I'm still in the process of transitioning to a better production. So please bear with me. So I think I made my introduction. Mordecai Marissa is my name, and I'm giving my commentary about this. And later on, I will give a comment about Mathias Mpuuga and what he said. Now, where do I even start? There are reports that when Donald John Trump was president of the USA, he suggested to his defense secretary, Mark Esper, whether he could or he had permission to shoot protesters in the legs. This was at the rise of the protests and riots and demonstrations across the USA in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. You can see I happen to stand against police brutality. I think I was in Wisconsin at one time, when the protests were going on in this country. I wasn't here, but later on when I came here, because I understand what police brutality can do because I have lived in Uganda and seen what it is. So I was very much vested into what was going on in the USA. So he suggested that, can we shoot protesters? The commander, of the most dominant military in the world, the USA, President Donald John Trump, suggested that. But the defense secretary, according to reports, the defense secretary, his own defense secretary, suggested to him and said, Mr. President, we cannot do that. We can't. There are guardrails, there are laws that prohibit us from doing what you're suggesting. And that didn't happen. And, for you that is watching, you might be like, obviously. And, I'm not just coming up with my own words. I'll play them, then I'll come on the other side, make more commentary about this. And I'm just weaving my conversation to take us to why the USA didn't care about what Muhoozi Kainerugaba said. So watch here, Mark Esper saying, this is what the president asked me to do, and he will explain why they didn't do that.
George Floyd.
The meeting started off pretty loud. The president was enraged. He was very upset at what had been happening, and it happened the night before. He thought that the protests made the country look weak, made us look weak, and us meant him. And he wanted to do something about it. And as we went back and forth discussing a number of things to include the deployment of 10,000 active duty troops, as you mentioned, we reached that point in the conversation where he looked frankly at General Milley and said, "Can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something." And it was not just it was a question in the form of or a suggestion in the form of a question.
There are laws. You cannot do that, Mr. President. On the other side, on another time, he said, he even suggested shooting. When President Donald John Trump ran for office, he really wanted to fight the problem of drug abusers in this country and folks who, bring drugs in this country. And he was looking at drug cartels and stuff like that. And he knew one of the major sources of drugs that have damaged the population of America were coming from Mexico. So at one time, he thought that, probably he could shoot, send missiles to drug cartels in Mexico. And Marcus Esper again said, we can't do that, Mr. President. This is not how it works, okay? So you understand, he really had good motives, but this is not how it works, Mr. President. We cannot do that. This is Mark Esper telling his boss, we can't do that, Mr. President. So, and why am I playing you these clips? It is to lay the foundation, to set the stage of where we're headed. Now, Ugandans woke up on one day and the command of our defense forces, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, was given an ultimatum to US's ambassador to Uganda to leave the country by Monday, 9 a.m. They said, if you do not apologize, we are going to ask you leave. This didn't happen. And like I stated in my beginning, at the start of this video, I said, this wasn't going to happen because this is not how it works. And I'll tell you why Muhoozi thinks in his own capacity that this was going to happen, using threat tactics and stuff like this. So it wasn't going to happen as you see on the screen, his threats and the ultimatum he gave, and this didn't happen. But if you read what is known as the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961, in chapter 9, it tells you how the process, you remember, Uganda is a signatory to the many United Nations, staff or treaties. So one of them is the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961. And in chapter 9, this is what it says. I'll read from my computer here. It says, the receiving state may at any time and without having to explain its decision, notify the sending state that the head of the mission or any member of the diplomatic staff of the mission is persona non grata. That any other member of the staff of the mission is not acceptable. In any such case, the sending state shall, as appropriate, either recall the person concerned or terminate his functions with the mission. A person may be declared persona non grata or not acceptable before arriving in the territory of the receiving state. Now, there are laws that it doesn't take the military officer, oh, now I'm doing this. Because they knew that if Muhoozi Kainerugaba wanted US's ambassador to leave Uganda, he doesn't do that on social media. He has to go through legal and formal means and tell the USA that we want this man to leave this country. So when they saw him making these sort of veiled attacks, they were laughing. They're like, what's wrong with him? Because they knew he's just a toothless barking dog. So they didn't even care. It is even funny that shortly after this happened, Monday came, nothing happened. This man remained the US's ambassador to Uganda up to date. Muhoozi went quiet. Matter of fact, in a shameful, embarrassing display of events, Muhoozi Kainerugaba deleted these tweets. Now, that shows you how embarrassing this man might have felt. A call he received from his dad. Muhoozi is a Nepo baby of all Nepo babies. So his dad might have told him, what are you doing? Okay, please delete. And then he deleted. I mean, the shame he might have swallowed. Imagine that. The command of the defense forces being forced to delete his tweets. So this wasn't going to happen. But I was telling you, the USA even had to go a little far. It doesn't usually do this, but they went on to even respond to trolls. You know, when this happened, now some of Muhoozi's surrogates and lackeys and minions and obsequious men and men went on social media, one, to disparage us who are saying this is not going to happen because this is not how things work. But they even went on to now create falsehoods. They'd be like, oh, the ambassador has tendered in his apology to the president of Uganda. It didn't happen. They were just creating. But the U.S. embassy in Uganda responded, and this is what they said. There's a one Twitter handle that wrote and said, it's called Muhoozi Kainerugaba quote, he said, the United States ambassador to Uganda, William W. Pope, has formally issued an apology to the Chief of Defense, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, and His Excellency President Museveni and the people of Uganda. This didn't happen. So the U.S.'s embassy in Uganda responds, says, this narrative is completely false. Neither the U.S. Embassy nor Ambassador Pope has received any formal request. That's the word. I've received any formal, underline, any formal request to apologize from the Ugandan government on any matter. Zero. You don't demand for an apology or even issue any statement, official statement using Twitter. They'll be like, hey, there's some legal special means you can use to reach us. So like, we didn't receive any formal request to apologize. And then they went on to say, I will go back here. Neither the U.S. Embassy nor Ambassador Pope have received any formal request to apologize from the Ugandan government on any matter. Nor, listen to this one, nor has he apologized. He didn't. But these folks are trying to create a narrative that is going to make them look less embarrassed over their boss. And they say, all official statements are posted on our platform. All official statements are posted on our platforms. If he had issued an apology, they would say, the ambassador has apologized. Now they're saying, no, it didn't happen. Oh my God, the shame. The shame. But like I've read to you, all these things, you know, the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, right here. This is a clear manifestation of what I've been saying. Uganda will have to decide either to want to appear as though it is stronger than the USA or other countries it usually begs, or it's going to have to keep quiet and do things in the right way. You know, USA, there's a very, very famous saying, he who pays the piper calls the tune. From my notes here, the fiscal year 2024, in the fiscal year 2024, USA has provided more than $83 million in humanitarian assistance to Uganda. This includes nearly $14 million announced in September 2024. The US is the largest humanitarian donor in Uganda, providing about half of all humanitarian funding in the country. Now, Museveni, who has kept himself in power through corruption and stealing from poor people, he steals this money the US provides. Now, do you expect, in which world do you expect Muhoozi or Museveni to want to piece off their biggest funder, their biggest donor? In which world? It's not going to happen. So, why are they doing this? It is because they have a son who is surrounded by obsequious lackeys who tell him, yeah, what you're doing is right. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. You've seen. Even some intelligent men will, bring themselves down to his level of understanding so that they receive crumbs off his table. He who pays the piper calls the tune. USA gives a lot of money to Uganda. And as a result, it's going to be the one calling the tune. It's even going to dismiss what you said. It's even going to force you to delete your tweets. It doesn't make any sense. Make it make sense. These folks live in an alternative world, probably where, and look, one of the reasons why Muhoozi does all these things, and you'd wonder, doesn't he realize that, what he's doing is wrong, is being surrounded by yes men. I usually talk about the Musevenism, the concept, the ideology of Musevenism. The ideology of Musevenism is when you kiss the ring and become his lapdog, where you are just a lackey, a minion, an obsequious man or woman, where you just take orders without question. So Muhoozi is surrounded by these folks, the likes of Kabanda, the likes of, what's his name, Baram Barugahare, and Lydia Naba, and the rest of other folks. They live in a world where they think that, if I ever question this man, I might lose my position or my association to power or even wealth I've amassed from stealing from the people. So when you surround yourself with yes men, that's why I usually enjoy when folks disagree with me in the comment section. When I see you folks criticizing me, holding me accountable, and I like that, because I don't want to be in echo chamber where all I say this stuff and hear myself and confirm, what I said is. No, I like it when people disagree with me. I think that's how we create civility, where we have civil conversations, where we express ourselves without fear, because I'm not trying to control you. You don't want to control me either. So Muhoozi is surrounded by folks who have decided to serve him, not his ideas, not even actually his ideas, not ideas of a country. The only thing they're focusing on is, how do I continue being close to this man because he's close to power? And that's the danger. When you surround yourself with minions, you don't know whether when you're doing the right thing or not. They will just clap with everything you say. Yeah. Okay? Now, on to the second subject.
You're watching Mordecai Marissa Live.
The other day you saw him declaring himself candidate. Which party organ appointed him to be party candidate? So he's effectively saying, I should nobody rise. If you try to say you're also interested, you become an enemy. So you'll see his dogs on social media abusing you. You're still into concert wars, into musical wars. For the last 2 years, him and his small cabal have had on their lips the name of one person, Mathias Mpuuga. When I was low, it's because I tried to make sure I had not really tried to scatter the team at Parliament and beyond. I kept cool. When we were trying to do oversight work to put government in check, Chagrani and the Secretariat people would call MPs to tell them not to go. You call Lubongwe, Mr. Lubongwe, call him, ask MPs, they are there. They would call them and say, don't go with that man, the president does not like it. The chairperson of Uganda caucus, the Honorable Mwanga, sometime last year, had started on a program to go in Uganda and undertake to check on deforestation and the depletion of the Central Forest Reserve in Uganda. We did 3 meetings and he stopped it. When asked, he said, no, Mr. Chagrani is saying he's uncomfortable, us moving with you in the countryside when he's not part. What kind of leader is that? I am aware, and I'm very much aware, I was aware when I was alone, that he would call people and ask them to withdraw, from work, because you are making the man shine, and I'm not there. That style of leadership is very, very dangerous. And up now, so they spent 2 years fighting me as a law. I would organize meetings, invite him in parliament and outside the parliament to address them. So he would come and then water down the importance of the meeting. For 3 years, 3.5 years now, the party president has never...
Now, there have always been complaints from the Mpuuga camp of not wanting to be insulted, that they're honorable men, that they deserve all kind of respect. And I agree. Some of what they're demanding for is things they worked for. But respect is earned continuously. For example, if you were awarded at one time as the you were given an award for fighting corruption, and at one time you're implicated in a corruption scandal, and proof or evidence is there to prove that, you took money, we do not continue addressing you as, an activist against corruption as we were in the past. Now, the focus is on what is happening at the moment. You were honorable and you had earned this respect from Buganda Kingdom and the stuff you did, a lot of work you did in opposition politics. But you are deteriorating in ways you are handling this matter after being implicated in a corruption scandal where you awarded yourself 500 million shillings, took yourself to court, and now you're using your platform to address Bobi Wine supporters as dogs. He said Bobi Wine is going to release his dogs to insult you. This is the language you're using, Mr. Mpuuga. You're referring to them as dogs. People. Come on. I believe that given your experience, your age, your expertise, your exposure, you wouldn't be taken by opinions said by a random guy who doesn't have any position of power. Even if they insulted you, I would think Mpuuga has to rise above these dirty waters. But now you're referring to Bobi Wine supporters as dogs. But at the same time, in your defense of what you're doing, you said Bobi Wine was fighting you all through the years you were leader of opposition. Why are you coming out now? This is where the question of transparency comes out. Why didn't you address these things? You're contradicting yourself. Recently, I saw a Daily Monitor newspaper that said, I think it reported that you said Bobi Wine is unfit to be president. I'll read it from here. I think I took a screenshot of, it's right here. You said, Bobi Wine not fit to lead Uganda, says Mpuuga. This is hypocritical and opportunistic in nature. And why? Bobi Wine, who is not fit to lead Uganda, is the man who appointed you leader of opposition, is the man who appointed you Commissioner of Parliament, is the man who appointed you his vice president in Buganda. Not at any given moment did you say, I won't accept your appointment because I don't believe you have the mental acuity to appoint me on any given position. You're coming out to say, oh, He's not fit to be president of Uganda after you have been denied an opportunity to pocket 500 million shillings you awarded to yourself. This is the height of opportunism. Because, and of recent, I saw you making comments of, we knew his history. We knew he was a political novice. We knew he was a drug abuser. We knew he didn't have the mental acuity and he didn't have the experience. But we joined him and we gave him an opportunity. I mean, if you believe that you are better than him in those areas I mentioned, then why not you vie for that position? You can say, oh, I knew this person is a thief and I am not. I knew this person abuses his wife and I don't. All these kind of things. But I trusted him to take care of my children. I mean, what? Mpuuga, you're going to have to rephrase your messaging because you're failing to catch the irony. A man who cannot lead, who is not unfit to lead Uganda, is a man who appointed you in 3 different positions of power. And you gladly accepted, including saying, thank you so much, Mr. President. You're only able to tell Ugandans, oh, he's unfit, after now he's exposed you and your corruption. Come on, give us a break. Gosh, I don't want to get angry, but, this stuff trigger me, piss me off, and I'll make sure that I control the emotions. I don't want to get lost into the emotions and say things I don't want to say. But Mpuuga, come on. And then you went on to make a comment about Bobi Wine said that, he's going to be running for president in 2026. It said, oh, if, when he said this, then that means, oh, no other person is supposed to run. Come on. You can express interests. Not even nominations have begun, nothing. You can as well say, I want to run for president. That's your prerogative, and no one is going to fight you. Bobi Wine showed interest in running for president in 2026. You can as well say it. I can as well say it. But you cannot attack him for making a statement that is just plain, oh, I'll be running for president. Anyways, I think that's it for now. I think it's been a very long video. It's fine. Now, what you're gonna do is this. Please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, Mordecai Murisa. Interesting stuff is still coming in. Again, forgive me for my camera, not my camera, my lighting. I just ordered some wonderful lights, so we're gonna be changing stuff here in soon. So thank you for sticking around. Let me tell you a trick. You might think that, oh, Mordecai intended to look like this. No, I'm trying to steal the sun that is coming through my window. The light is this side. So I should have actually pushed myself close here. I should have recorded from this angle. But hey, here we are. My name is Mordecai Murisa. I do really appreciate for your support, your love, and everything you're doing to make sure that we grow this social media platform that I use to share my opinions. If you find them meaningful, please consider subscribing. Till we catch up again, bye-bye.
Did you enjoy what you just watched? I'm going to guess that you did. How about you consider subscribing to Mordecai Murisa YouTube channel? Thank you.